Sweet Nothings, written by Possible Letters 42. Eye candy. That was a human term, and it amused the advanced races of the galaxy to appropriate it when humanity was discovered and incorporated. Their level of technology was estimated to be a 3.5 to 4 on the Galactic Standardized 10.0 scale, used by the Galactic Synthesis to assess emergent cultures. Relatively competent, but not advanced or evolved enough to be a threat. The most advanced race, the Ethereal ONI, were a 9.2. The most warlike race, the Kaltar, were an 8.4. Neither was threatened in the slightest by Earth's competent but basic military forces. They were enough to clean up piracy and attend to accidents, and nothing more was needed with the galaxy-wide Kulras deterrence forces keeping watch. About human history, culture, environment, not much was learned. Nobody much cared to. Everyone had music, books, art, and so on. Galactic society didn't much care what they had to say. They simply cared about looking at humans. And they looked. Oh, did they look? Humans were, by galactic standards, hot. There was no way to accurately or scientifically break down why. Many of the best galactic sociologists and anthropologists tried and failed. It was possible to glean a general image of the constituent parts of a given subset of humans, such as skin texture and color, eye shape, overall symmetry, but it never encapsulated a universal truth that all species could see clear as day. Humans were enormously attractive. This human sexuality effect was not limited to ethnic background, skin, tone, sex, gender, race, religion, size, creed, vocal tone, disability, or neurological disorder. A bad-looking human was gorgeous to most species. An average-looking human was a supermodel. A human supermodel was damn near superweapon. Their adaptive, almost generic bipedal form was also sexually compatible with an astonishing 91% of species. All felt pity for the remaining 9%, and many of them angrily posted about the unfairness of the situation on the hypernet. Even they, though, could not seriously begrudge the humans based on the aesthetics alone. Humans brightened up every room they were in. So was their calendar. Kroll-Lani, a high-powered Threlian businesswoman and trader, had managed to snag herself a trophy husband, some true eye candy. That fixed her as a symbol of awe and jealousy amongst the women of her planet. Even the men of her planet couldn't be upset after seeing Talon. Even by human standards, Kalinda understood he was a stunner. A human friend of his had once joked about him being a cross between a nova and a supernova. Kalinda found the comparison generally accurate. Merely looking made her swoon. When he smiled, she practically fainted. Talon generally stayed at Kalinda's home unless he was working out or shopping, and would generally tidy up and take care of the place. A massive 8,000-square-foot apartment in a vast glassy tower, dripping with opulence, befitting a high-class Thelian. He was soft-spoken, kind, and tremendously skilled in bed. His only annoying habit was his affinity for the house slaves. Kalinda, being wealthy and powerful, owned 8 Nebu. The Nebu were feathered, snake-like lizards with functional but weak hands, about 2 human feet tall, balanced on their squat, stubby tails. Their level of technology was a 0.0 out of 10. The Nebu had once been coded a 5 out of 10, but when the Galactic Synthesis had voted to subsume the Nebu into an organization of junior status, the Nebu had insisted on their independence. A foolish notion that was never one of the options given. When the Galactic Synthesis moved to incorporate the Nebu by force, the Nebu had resisted with violence. The subsequent war was brief and the outcome certain, but the Nebu managed to make it painful. Unforgivably, and the turning point for their species, the Nebu had managed to destroy one of the 8 synthesis bulwarks, the colossal dreadnoughts that marked the senior status species of the synthesis, killing Senator Gallet of the Gerol, a legendary and highly elite figure in the synthesis. As punishment, when the 75 worlds of the former Nebu Free Republic were defeated and subsumed into the Galactic Synthesis, they had been stripped of their technology and agency. For 200 human years, they had become the ubiquitous slaves of the senior status species. Nebu had no rights to speak of, and were seen as property or inanimate objects. Almost all households owned at least 1 Nebu, whereas high-status households such as Kalinda's had up to 10. 10 was the maximum limit to ensure a ready supply for all senior status species. At 8, Kalinda's Kotore was to be envied by her peers. 6 months ago, when she had first encountered Talon playing a human game called Twister with a flexible Naboo, and even the thought made her shudder to remember, tittering back at them in an attempt to communicate in their language. She had firmly scolded Talon, telling him of the history of these disgraced lizards. At the end of her lecture, she had said, "No husband of mine will earn us a reputation as slave lovers." Humans were hot, as noted. They were all incredible to look at, but Kalinda had sometimes been troubled by the expression that had crossed Talon's face that day. It had not been hot, not even attractive. It was not calming or alluring. It had sent a shiver of fear up her spine. Something about it had raised alarms in her. But it was gone soon as it appeared, and she had concluded it was simply still becoming accustomed to human expressions. Talon, for his part, had laughed away her concern, saying that he was only confused, but she had often seen him confused, and it wasn't the same look. Ah, well. There were bound to be some things lost in translation. It still annoyed her when he spoke cordially to the Naboo, but he did so around her much less now, and was clearly learning the way of things. Plus, he was gorgeous. Months had passed, and even though she still caught him slipping food or notes to the slaves on a rare occasion, she shrugged it off. Humans were incredibly friendly, and apparently their sexiness made them too ditzy to understand history. She smirked at the thought and summoned Talon to the bedchamber. Time to enjoy the pleasure of the tits she had been high status enough to snag. Agent Talon Carde of the UN Task Force WTP had often pondered how easy life might have been had he been born without his morals. He lived in opulence. His mistress was stunning. He hated this life and her in his marrow. Every moment of his existence was a poison he longed to spit out. But he had a duty. So he smiled, shopped, worked out, performed in bed, and waited. Aloy gazed at him, waiting, the lights of the kitchen gleaming off the precious exotic marvel. Talon got like this sometimes. He snapped back to reality. "Sorry, Ulia. It's just hard some days. Also, sorry for saying any day is hard given how you live." Talon's grasp of the shuttered, jittering Naboo dialect had improved markedly. Ulio Aaron was impressed. "No need to apologize, Talwan. I know your heart by now. I know it must be hard to pretend. Do you have any updates?" "Yes, Command apologized for the delay, but the coordination is getting busy. We're almost ready." "Already? How many in place?" Talon flashed a dazzling smile. "You wouldn't believe me. Tell one. More than 20,000 sleepers in place and ready. We're married to the military commanders, the business leaders, the heads of government, even businesswomen like Kalinda, who think their military R&D is a secret. She thinks I have no idea what she does, when I've been copying the hard drive in her hidden room every week for most of the past year." "Remarkable. And the others? As successful?" "More so, Ulia. I'm doing average work. We have the codes to disable the first strike weapons, or to fire them. We know where the fallback command bunkers are. We know plans A, B, C, and D for everything that's coming. And we have counters ready. We know their shield frequencies and weak spots. We know their affairs, additions, distractions, and families. We know everything. It wasn't even hard." "How could such a success be possible? The synthesis has ruled for 5,000 years. Why, we tried revolting 4 times, and they crushed us so easily." Talon laughed and shrugged, a movement with his muscular shoulders that Ulio had come to recognize as a sign of confusion and nonchalance. "We're just hot, Ulio." "This is known. To us as well you are appealing." "Yeah, Ulio. But Naboo are smart. You don't lose your minds over it. The other ruling species, we're like their favorite playthings. Their most valued collectibles. It would never even occur to them that we can think. It would be the furthest thing from their minds that we could even imagine opposing them." "So why soon, Talban? Why not wait another 2 or 3 years and have even more agents in place? Be even more safe." Talon's face fell, and his stony demeanor sent a bolt of fear through Ulio. Ulio didn't know, but it was the same look that had troubled Kalinda. "Because, one of them will eventually get bored enough to learn our culture and history. So, you have shown us some funny shows, pretty art." "No, Ulio. You've seen the surface area, vapid, fun stuff. Now we put out when we realized the power we had over most of you. Our history goes, deeper. He averted his eyes in shame. We once did what they do to the Naboo, to each other. Ulu Aran's feathers fled in extreme agitation, and he slithered several feet from Talon. Slavers! His voice hissed in rage or betrayal. Before logic began to calm him, this was the being who had spent the past 6 months planning to free his people. The two concepts did not coexist. He stopped, smoothed his feathers, and listened. Talon had not reacted to Ulu Aran's threat posture, other than to dip his eyes lower. He gave Ulu Aran a moment to regain composure, then nodded. Yes, Udio. Everything they do to your people, we did to each other. For centuries, for millennia. It is one of our darkest secrets. Around the year 2200, very near when Naboo was enslaved by the synthesis, we managed to abolish it entirely from our culture, and developed a deep hate for all forms of it. The first 2 times we encountered slaver cultures, we annihilated them. But when we encountered the synthesis, the UN scouts quickly knew 2 things. First, that the synthesis practiced and endorsed slavery, and second, that the synthesis was far too powerful for us to fight. We would not ever have coexisted with slavers, so most of us were ready to die. Talon glanced up. Ulu Aran sent a ripple through his feathers. A sign that Talon had learned was a form of active listening that essentially meant, I hear you, but I know the story's not over. Go on. Talon nodded. It was a stroke of luck that we figured out early that most species found us irresistible. The first contact ambassador could not stop hitting on our entire contact team, multi-gendered, multi-age, multi-racial, and he was making these completely unsubtle passes. Even if you glanced it, we realized the effect we had on most species was essentially the effect a hot cheerleader has on a group of shy nerds. Ulu Aran signaled confusion. Sorry, just the effect of making them act dumb and careless. We realized that was our chance. Play the bimbo, be the hearty. We specially trained human ambassadors from our most attractive and outgoing humans, all trained in the art of espionage and warfare, all trained to act like stupid eye candy. You know by now I'm one. Ulu Aran nodded. And you have done remarkable things for the Naboo, tall one. At night we sing you in our hope song. It has killed me, Ulio. It has killed me watching her talk to you. Your crashmate, your friends, when they took your letter. Talon's voice cut off as his eyes streamed. Ulu Aran recognized his signs of distress, handing him a cloth from the stove despite rippling with his own distress and pain signals. Talon nodded his thanks. It is how we've lived for so long, tall one. The pain has been impossible to have imagined, but it is how we have lived. We knew it would happen. We knew this is our burden to bear. You shouldn't have to. Your people are the only reason why we might not. A long pause and silence between the two passed as Talon composed himself. So, that's why we can't wait longer, Udio. It has killed all of us to wait this long, and we can't. Not only because we can't keep watching the Naboo suffer, but because one of our agents tells us the synthesis has started finally cataloging our art. They're going to get to the works that you haven't seen, Udio. They're going to learn about Harry Tubman, Frederick Douglass, real people, and they're going to learn about fictional ones too, like Django. Ulu Aran cocked his head. Django? Talon nodded. A character from a classical human cinema. He was a slave who was freed and burned down the home of his slavers and slaughtered them. He was a criminal? A fierce story? No, Talon grinned. He was a hero. Ulu Aran paused for a long moment before rippling his feathers in what Talon understood was pleasure. Yeah, I thought you'd like that. Anyway, no more waiting. We're going the week after next, 9 days from now. And I'm excited because I don't want them to learn from our art what we think about slavers. I want to teach them myself. And so does every other operative in the Project WTP. Ulu Aran said, Tell one, I have never asked you, as I understand the sensitivity of your work, but if we are close to acting, what does WTP stand for? Talon looked startled and barked out a short laugh. I never told you. You did not. He was a fictional omnivorous creature from ancient mythology, Winnie the Pooh. Why was that name chosen? Talon flashed a grin of startling fierceness that made Ulu Aran slither back still further, even as the thought of what was coming in the next 9 days filled him with an inexpressible thrill. Because humanity isn't eye candy, my friend. We're a honey pot. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.